You've all heard of Kony 2012. And Kony 2012 turned out to be a phony 2012. When the game has been rigged the whole time, we now have a tremendous advantage to broadcast the true message throughout the whole entire world. This is a real movement. This is Rony 2012.
The House and Senate have passed companion budget plans.
It's a done deal now. The House has acted, the Senate has acted.
We turn now to the ongoing gridlock in Congress.
We're now approaching 3 years since a budget was passed. How do you feel about that?
I feel good about retiring, that's for sure.
They don't want their fingerprints on a plan. That's why they didn't pass a budget the last 2 years.
The reality is we're not going to get a budget resolution out of the Senate.
There is very little chance that we're going to get the two sides together before the election.
The leadership in this body won't even bring up a budget. He said it was foolish.
House Republicans are going to make another excuse, create another diversion, and avoid another tough choice.
The Senate's done nothing. 3 years, and they've failed to move a budget.
What we don't have is a longer-term plan.
The reason we didn't get a budget last year is because Mitch McConnell objected.
Senate Democrats now, for the third year in a row, will not have passed a budget. That's their job.
We're not doing our jobs, we're not doing our business, and the American people are suffering because of it.
And there you see the problem. Election after election after election. We get the Republicans and Democrats playing the little blame game, pointing fingers at each other, and guess what? Nothing gets done. The economy right now is in critical condition. People working 2 or 3 jobs just to still live paycheck to paycheck. And you know something? I'm getting sick and tired of this crap. I'm sick and tired of the games. See, I followed Obama. And Obama is no different than Bush. And he wants to run for president again? Well, you say, Obama, he said he bringing change. The only change I've seen from Obama is the changing of his mind.
Explain to me why you voted to reauthorize the Patriot Act, which is the worst attack on civil rights of Americans. And we do now know that George Bush's fabricated reasons to go to war were fabricated, so we do not need the Patriot Act to keep us safe.
Let me tell you what. First, it's not actually true that the Patriot Act was the worst. Most of the problems that we have had in civil liberties were not done through the Patriot Act. They were done through executive order by George W. Bush. And that's why the first thing I will do when I'm president is call in my Attorney General and have he or she review every executive order to determine which of those have undermined civil liberties, which are unconstitutional, and I will reverse them with a stroke of a pen.
But what does he do when he becomes president? He keeps Bush's executive orders. Not only that, but he extends the Patriot Act. And he also signs the NDAA, which allows the military to indefinitely detain U.S. citizens without due process. And this thing was written by Lindsey Graham and John McCain, the guy he was running against. They are working together as a team, people.
If it's an American citizen, say over in somewhere in Pakistan, that is plotting and seeking to kill or destroy American citizens, it's okay for us to send a predator and fire and kill that person. But according to Senator from Illinois' interpretation, if that person were apprehended in Charleston planning to blow up Shaw Air Force Base, then that person would be given that individual's Miranda rights. Now, how in the world does that fit?
And to those American citizens thinking about helping Al-Qaeda, please know what will come your way. Death, detention, prosecution. And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time is expired.
Get a lawyer. You're an enemy combatant, and we're going to talk to you.
You see how crazy these people are? Why are you showing us this? I'm showing you this to let you know we need to stop making the same mistakes. We need to stop voting for these creatures of Washington. Obama is a creature of Washington. He says he's not for the banks, but guess what? The banks are funding his campaign.
I did not run for office to be helping out a bunch of, fat cat bankers on Wall Street.
But guess who gave $42 million to Obama's last campaign for president? Wall Street bankers and financial insiders, more than any other candidate in history.
Helping out a bunch of, fat cat bankers on Wall Street.
But Obama voted for the Wall Street bailout.
Fat cat bankers on Wall Street.
But his White House is full of Wall Street executives. His first chief of staff, his next chief of staff, former military office director, foreign intelligence, ambassador to Germany, Treasury Secretary. Obama's new chief of staff took nearly $1 million bonus from Citigroup after taxpayers bailed them out. And John Corzine, who lost $1.2 billion of investors' money on Wall Street, was Obama's advisor on the stimulus. Now, Obama's flush with cash, raising $5 million in one night in New York.
People on Wall Street still don't get it. They don't get it.
Obama won't admit to supporting Wall Street, but Wall Street sure supports President Obama.
Now you're probably asking yourself, are there any other candidates I can vote for? Well, there are two other candidates. One of them, the mainstream media would love for you to vote for over Obama, but here's the problem. He's also funded by the banks. Mitt Romney is funded by the same banks Obama is funded by. You say that's a conflict of interest? Not really, because they're the same candidate with a different face. They are both creatures of Washington working with the same agenda. For example, let's ask Romney what he thinks about the NDAA.
U.S. troops. Governor Romney, as president, would you have signed the National Defense Act as written?
Yes, I would have, and I do believe that it's appropriate to have in our nation the capacity to detain people.
Let me speak very directly and candidly about where I stand. I will be a pro-life president.
I believe that abortion should be safe and legal in this country.
We do have tough gun laws in Massachusetts. I support them. I won't chip away at them.
As governor, I worked closely with the NRA and the Gun Owners Action League to advance legislation that expanded the rights of gun owners in my state.
When the federal government expands at the kind of rate it's expanding, buy car companies, bail out banks, we have every good reason to be alarmed and to speak our mind.
We didn't waste a lot of money right then. That was an investment made to try and keep a collapse of our entire financial system from occurring. So I like mandates. The mandates work.
Beg your pardon?
Here
I didn't know you were going to admit that.
The federal Constitution does not allow for mandates to be provided by the government.
Oh, absolutely. You like mandates?
Let me tell you what kind of mandates I like, Fred, which is this.
The ones you come up with.
I'd be proud to have your support again as I campaign for president.
Mitt Romney is obviously the choice of the Republican establishment. Those are the folks who brought us TARP and stimulus, wars fought on credit cards, federal agents writing their own search warrants, and the federal government taking over education. Mitt Romney believes in all these things, but here's the crusher. So does President Obama. There's not a dime's worth of difference between them. Name the topic on which the president has a real say, and they agree. Can the government mandate health care? Yes, from both. Should income taxes stay where they are on those who pay the most? Yes, from both. Can the president start a war on his own without a declaration of war from the Congress? Yes, from both. Can the president kill any American he wants? Incredibly, yes, from both. Oh, there is some difference in tone. One of them likes labor unions, and the other one likes big business. But both love big government. So where does this leave us? It manifests what Freedom Watch and Tea Party Republicans have been saying for the past year. There is a hunger in the land for a game changer. And Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum are not up to that. There is a need in the country for a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution, or we'll all end up like the socialists in Europe. And Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum are not up to that. There is a rumbling in the countryside that the government should shrink and live within its means. And Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum are not going to make that happen. Only one man remains faithful to the principles of free market and small government, to the Constitution and to personal freedom, to defending the nation without being the world's police force. Only one. You know who he is.
I want the American people to understand that I opposed this war in 2002, 2003, 4, 5, 6, and 7, so you can have confidence that I will be serious about ending this war. I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank. When I promise that we are going to bring this war in Iraq to a close in 2009, we will remove our combat brigades from Iraq by the end of next summer, and all of our troops by the end of 2011. And as Commander-in-Chief, I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan.
I say a policy of peace is free trade, stay out of their internal business, don't get involved in these wars, and just bring our troops home.
Just come home. We just marched in, just found out.
They're building up this case just like we did in Iraq. Build up the war propaganda. There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and they had nuclear weapons, and we had to go in. I'm sure you supported that war as well. Okay. It's time we quit this. It's time. It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.
That we should bring our troops home, change our foreign policy, quit these ridiculous wars. We would be safer and richer for it.
This presidential candidate, Ron Paul, he is the only one who seems to care about what's going on with the U.S. economy. He's the only one who actually has a plan within his first year to balance the budget. He's the only candidate who is against the TSA. The only candidate who is against the NDAA. He voted against it. Ron Paul, for his whole career, has been fighting for our rights, for our constitutional rights, unlike any other, never being bought off by the lobbyists. This man right here is not a creature of Washington. A lot of you haven't heard of him, and there's a reason why you haven't heard of him. It's because the media is bought and paid for by the elites, the creatures of Washington. They don't want you to hear about Ron Paul, and they try to discredit Ron Paul as much as they can. That's why we have this movement. Rony 2012. We have to make Rony famous. We have to make Ron Paul famous. We have to make this bigger than Kony 2012 because we have to get Ron Paul elected as President of the United States of America. Why don't you check out the opposition?
Congressman Paul, yet another question about electability. Do you have any, sir? There's always the question as to whether or not you are, in fact, viable. Your differences...
Ron Paul is a no one.
Ron Paul really has no business being on stage.
Ron Paul cannot get elected, I'm sorry to tell you. He has just zero chance of getting elected. You have to win an election.
What's success for you in this campaign?
What's success? Well, to win is one is the goal.
That's not going to happen.
Do you know for absolute, or you want to bet your every cent in your pocket for that?
Yes.
I will bet you Ron Paul doesn't win one primary if he runs. Not one. Are you willing to sit here and bet me $1,000 for Wounded Warriors? Sure. Yes! All right, it's a ching.
Breaking news. Despite all the manipulation of the media, despite all the cheating, Ron Paul wins 11 states. So you know what that means, right? Bill O'Reilly, pay up, cause you owe, bruh. But you know what? This ain't about Bill O'Reilly. This is about Ron Paul becoming the president. If Ron Paul can win California and Texas, he will become the GOP nominee. And he will go on to face Obama. And after that, he will become the president of the United States of America. So I'm here to endorse Ron Paul to become the president of the United States of America. Because Ron Paul is the only qualified man running. He is the only one who is not a creature of Washington. And I'm also here for a call to action. A call to action to every Ron Paul supporter. I'm talking about from the north, the south, the east, and the west. Doggone it, like the video. Make sure you share the video. Y'all, you're probably wondering, well, Ron Paul, he can't really campaign. He running out of money. He running out of funds. But that don't really matter because Ron Paul has the strongest grassroots campaign of all time. And I'll tell you why. It's because of the internet. It's because of YouTube. It's because of Google. It's because of Facebook. This is how we do it. The media has been manipulated, but doggone it, we got something that they can't stop. Yeah, you saw the Kony 2012 video. That was a whole bunch of bull crap. It was nothing but a scam. But this right here, this is a real movement. We can actually get something done. And people in other countries, you probably like, why can't vote for Ron Paul? But you can do this. You can make a Rony 2012 video. You can make a Ron Paul 2012 video. And you can like this video. And you can share this video all over the continents. You can do that. We can make a statement that way. Here's the reality check. In 125 years, all of us are going to be dead. And it's all about what we do right now. It's all about what side we was on. Was we on the good side or was we on the bad side, the oppressor side? Did we do something? Did we actually make a difference? Did we help to bring about a real change? Are you going to be on the right side of history? I hope so. I know, yeah, earlier when I said this was a movement, I didn't mean I was by myself on this.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. I'm Major Christopher Miller of St. Charles County, United States Marine Corps, retired. I just served 27 years in the Marine Corps, retired less than a year ago, and moved here to Missouri. I've served multiple combat tours as an explosive ordnance disposal officer, disarming bombs and leading bomb disposal technicians in combat. I'm tired of these wars. Our Marine Corps is tired of these wars. The whole armed services are tired of these wars, and we're tired of these so-called Republicans and so-called Democrats that give us the same garbage, who are no different from one another. We are tired of it. Ron Paul is the only candidate who represents any change. We're tired of the Obama change and the Obamacare and all the other Obama garbage. I do not believe that Mr. Romney, Governor Romney, is going to give us anything else than more Obama garbage. We need real change. We don't need more of the same. Our country cannot stand any more of the same. We need real change.
I've had
when they come at me and they can't seem to get me on one issue and then another issue and then the next, all that's left is, well, one man can't change it. He ain't gonna be able to do nothing by himself. And then that's when I break out the last little gun. I look them square in the eye and I say to them, to think you gonna beat me? Say hello to my little friend. It's called the vote. Listen, we have to replace what is at the head first. How do we cure sickness? We identify the illness, thus exposing it to the light of day. And now that it is exposed to the light of day and we know that it means us no good, we then proceed to eradicate the sickness. We need to replace the head that has allowed this corruption to infiltrate Washington and thus bringing about what we see in our economy today, the loss of jobs, etc., etc., etc. Now, for those of you who think that Ron Paul will not be able to accomplish any change because nobody will work with him, this is where Ron Paul will use the power of light to identify and expose those that would stand against progress, those that would frustrate change, those that would keep us where we are. You expose those who vote against the change that the people is calling for. They want their jobs. They want to remain in Washington. Guess what? They don't want that. Ron Paul will bring us the transparency that Obama merely promised. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, folks, you got to start somewhere. And where you start is at the head. We get the man into the office first. And then we begin to eradicate the sickness there within by exposing them to the light of day. The light of day. And we can bring about the change that we are seeking.
Imagine to yourself, how many times have you heard someone say that they support Ron Paul except they don't believe that he can win? First of all, are you familiar with the concept of circular logic? Are you familiar with the concept of self-fulfilling prophecy? Think of how many people in America are holding the opinion that they support Ron Paul, they are gung-ho for what he believes in, but they don't think that he can win. Do you think they're going to vote for him? No, they're not. Let's think about how many of these people there actually are. Do you think there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Could there even be millions of people in the United States right now who would like Ron Paul to be their president but don't believe that he can do it? Imagine if those people changed their minds and decided that he is electable. That would change their vote. That would give us millions of votes for Ron Paul. So the next time you hear someone say that they support Ron Paul's policies, that they believe that he would take the country in the right direction, if they say to you that he is not electable, that they don't think he can win, do not let them get away with it without asking them why. Ask them why. Put them on the spot. And show them that if they say he's not electable, then he's not. But if they say he is, he is. I believe that the majority of Americans are good people. I believe that the majority of Americans want what is good for this country. I believe that we are more alike in our beliefs than the mainstream media lets on. I really, really do. And all it is going to take is for us to stand by our principles, to stand our ground and say, it does not matter if somebody tells me that the person I believe speaks the truth is unelectable. That does not matter. Because once enough people decide to say, hey, this person is electable, then guess what? He is. Stand your ground. Stand your principles, and do not ever let anyone utter in your presence that Ron Paul is unelectable without asking them to justify why. He is electable. I truly believe there are millions of us. And all we have to do is stand by our principles. And Ron Paul, he is just a man, and a man is flesh and blood and bones. But that's not what we're voting for. We are voting for a message that America is completely starved for. We are starved to hear our founding message of freedom and prosperity, absolutely starved for it. We've gone so long without it. I am not voting for a man. I am not promoting a man. I am voting for and promoting a message. Spread the message.
Wait a minute. That's it? That was anticlimactic. I'll tell you why. Because that's not it. This thing is not over. See, you still have to make your video responses. And by doing that, Rony 2012 continues and continues and continues. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a video. This is a movement.